First up, the 1936 Wheat Penny is one of those coins that often shows up in coin jars, old collections, or handed down from relatives. But many people don't know how to evaluate its true value. This coin was minted in Denver, and you can spot the small D mint mark right beneath the date on the front of the coin. In 1936, the Denver Mint produced over 40 million wheat pennies, so it was not rare when it was first released. But as the decades passed and coins wore down or were lost, nice examples have become much harder to find. Even a coin in fine circulated condition can still catch the attention of collectors, especially if it has strong details or retains some of its original color. When we talk about fine condition, that refers to a grade in the middle of the scale collectors use. A fine grade penny will have visible wear across Lincoln's hair and cheek. The lettering will show some softness, and the wheat stalks on the back will be worn but still clearly outlined. It is a step above the very worn grades, where many details are almost gone, and a step below very fine or extremely fine coins, which hold on to sharper detail. In the coin world, even these small distinctions matter, because value is tied directly to the amount of detail that remains and the overall eye appeal of the coin. So how much is a 1936 Wheat Penny worth in today's market if it is in fine condition? The answer depends on demand and the coin's appearance. Generally, collectors are willing to pay in the range of $100,000 for a fine example. A dull, heavily worn brown piece will likely sell closer to the lower end, while a clean, evenly worn penny with decent surfaces and some remaining red or red-brown color can reach the higher end of that range. For a coin that once only had a face value of 1 cent, even a modest price like this shows just how much history and collectability add to its worth. It is also important to note that varieties and errors can change the story completely. Some pennies from the 1930s show doubling of the date or letters, while others might have off-center strikes or other mint mistakes. Those are far more valuable and can be worth, or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity and condition. While most 1936 pennies are normal strikes, it is always worth taking a close look under good light, or even with a magnifier to see if something unusual stands out. The 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a fascinating coin that continues to capture the attention of coin collectors and everyday treasure hunters. Even though it was struck in large numbers at the San Francisco Mint, its charm lies in its history and the condition in which it survives today. When we talk specifically about a 1952 penny in fine condition, we are referring to a circulated coin that shows noticeable wear, but still holds onto all of its key design features. In fine condition, you can clearly see the date and mint mark under the year. Lincoln's portrait is visible though worn, and the wheat stalks on the reverse side still have definition, though the finer lines and crispness are no longer sharp. This condition is quite typical for coins that spent decades moving through everyday commerce in the mid-20th century. Now, let's talk about its value in today's coin market. The truth is, the 1952 penny is not considered a rare coin, and millions were minted. Because of this high mintage, circulated examples in fine condition do not bring big money. On average, a 1952 penny in fine condition is worth $1,000 above its face value, usually around 5 to 15 cents in everyday trading. However, collectors still buy them because they want to complete their wheat penny sets, and pennies with the San Francisco mint mark always hold a bit of extra appeal. In some cases, depending on eye appeal, color, or how nicely preserved it is, a coin in fine condition may bring closer to $1 from an interested collector. Still, it is important to understand that the real big prices you sometimes hear about with wheat pennies only apply to very high-grade examples in mint state, often graded MS-67 or MS-68, with bright original red color. Those coins can sell for thousands of dollars at auction, but that is a completely different situation than a coin that has seen everyday circulation. The main thing collectors appreciate about the 1952S in fine condition is its history, and the fact that it still stands as a solid collectible coin more than 70 years after it was struck. If you happen to find one in your change, the best advice is to never clean it. Cleaning damages the natural surfaces and takes away collector value. Instead, simply store it in a safe place like a coin flip or holder. If you plan to sell it, you can check recent sales on online marketplaces like eBay to get a feel for what similar pieces are bringing. Most of the time, you'll see them sell in small lots or as part of Wheat Penny collections, with individual fine-grade coins not commanding much on their own. Even so, holding onto coins like the 1952 S penny connects you to American history, when these cents were still part of everyday life in the 1950s. While the financial value of a fine condition coin is modest, the sentimental and historical value makes it worth saving, especially for anyone building a complete Lincoln Wheat Penny set. That's what makes coin collecting exciting. You never know when an ordinary-looking penny might turn out to be something special, and even the more common dates still carry a story worth holding on to. Next up, the 1958 D Wheat Penny is an interesting coin because it represents the very last year the famous wheat reverse design was struck. From 1909 through 1958, collectors and the public saw those two wheat ears on the back of their pennies. But in 1959, the design changed to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. That makes the 1958 D penny not only a collectible piece of history, but also the end of an era in American coinage. It was minted in Denver, and you will see the small D mint mark under the date on the obverse. Production at the Denver Mint was very high that year, with over 800 million coins struck, which means that this penny is not rare in terms of how many exist. But condition and overall appearance are what drive its value. When we describe a coin as being in very fine condition, we are talking about a grade that is higher than fine, but not quite up to extremely fine. In very fine condition, Lincoln's portrait still shows noticeable wear on the cheek and jaw, but the details in the hair and coat are stronger than they would be on a fine-grade coin. On the reverse, the wheat stalks have clear lines, and most of the details are visible, though some flattening can still be seen. A very fine wheat penny looks sharper overall and is more attractive to collectors who want coins with some detail still present, but who don't want to pay the higher price for mint state examples. So what is the market value today for a 1958 D penny in very fine condition? Because this coin was produced in such huge numbers, its base value is modest. Typically, collectors will pay anywhere from about $130,000 up to a couple of dollars for a circulated example in very fine condition. If the coin has scratches, like the one we are talking about here, that will usually bring the value down, since collectors prefer coins with clean, problem-free surfaces. Scratches are considered damage, and even if the details are strong, the market usually prices those coins lower. For most scratched examples, the realistic value will stay close to face value or just a little above it, unless the coin has something else special about it. That being said, higher-grade 1958 D pennies, especially those that retain bright original red color and are certified by a grading service, can sell for much more. In mint state red, with no damage, prices can climb into the tens or even hundreds of dollars, and the finest examples have sold for thousands at auction. There are also rare doubled die varieties known for this year, particularly the famous 1958 doubled die obverse, which is one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. So while the normal 1958 D penny is common, the year still carries some surprises for sharp-eyed collectors. Having a 1958 D penny in very fine condition with scratches still means you own a tangible link to the last year of the wheat cent. Its collectible value may be modest, but its historical significance is undeniable. This coin is a reminder of a design that was part of everyday life for 50 years, a design that millions of Americans carried in their pockets. Even a circulated coin with some marks tells a story and adds character to a collection. For many collectors, holding the last year of the Wheat Cent series is something special, no matter what the grade is. Next up, the 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is another coin that many collectors come across, and it often raises the question of whether it carries any special value. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at that time, so finding one without a mint mark is completely normal. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins in 1956, making it one of the more common wheat penny dates. Because of this large mintage, the coin is easy to find in circulation and is not considered rare. Collectors often acquire them in rolls, bulk lots, or as part of sets without much difficulty. Now, when we talk about a 1956 penny in damaged and dirty condition with scratches and heavy wear, the value changes significantly. Collectors pay the most for coins in high grades with original surfaces, but a coin that is dirty, scratched, or damaged falls into what numismatists call low-grade or problem coins. In this condition, it unfortunately does not hold any significant collector premium beyond its face value of $180,000. Sometimes a dealer might include such a coin in a bulk lot of wheat pennies, where they are sold by the pound or in rolls. But on its own, a damaged and dirty 1956 penny is usually worth just thousands of dollars at most. Even if the date is fully readable, the heavy damage makes it undesirable to most collectors. It's also important to note that cleaning a dirty or scratched coin does not increase its value. In fact, cleaning usually lowers its value because it strips away the natural surfaces that collectors prefer. If you have a 1956 wheat penny in this type of condition, the best thing to do is simply leave it as it is. Many collectors actually like keeping these coins as history pieces, since every scratch and mark tells a story of the coin's journey through circulation over the decades. While the damaged 1956 penny isn't valuable in the traditional sense, it still holds historical interest. It represents a time in American history when the Lincoln Wheat Penny was still in everyday use, and people carried these coins in their pockets during the post-war years of the 1950s. For new collectors or children starting out in coin collecting, even a worn or damaged 1956 penny can serve as a fun introduction to the hobby. It can also inspire someone to begin looking through their change for other wheat pennies, some of which might turn out to be scarcer dates or coins in better condition. Next up, the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a coin that continues to capture the attention of collectors, even though at first glance it may not look particularly rare. Struck at the Denver Mint, you can find the small D mint mark just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. In 1950, the Denver Mint produced over 334 million wheat pennies, which is a very large mintage. Because of that, this coin is considered common overall. But when you look at condition, eye appeal, and collector demand, even a coin with some circulation wear can still have value beyond its face amount. When we describe this penny as being in extra fine condition, it means the coin is well above the normal grades seen from everyday circulation. Extra fine coins still show light wear, but much of the detail remains sharp. On the 1950 D penny, Lincoln's hairlines are still clearly visible. The cheek and jaw show just slight flattening, and the lettering around the rim remains strong. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are sharply outlined, with much of the fine inner lines still present. This makes the coin visually attractive, a step below uncirculated examples, but clearly nicer than average circulated pennies. Now, in the case of a coin with some scratches, value does get affected. Collectors often look closely at surfaces, and scratches, marks, or cleaning can reduce eye appeal. Even if the details are sharp enough for extra fine grade, scratches can lower its desirability compared to a clean example of the same grade. That said, many circulated wheat cents have some degree of contact marks, so minor scratches are not unusual, especially for a coin that is over 70 years old. So what is the 1950 D wheat penny worth in today's market in extra fine condition with a few scratches? Typically, without any damage, an extra fine 1950D sells in the range of $1 to $5, depending on luster and color. Coins with attractive red or red-brown color will bring more, while brown pieces or those with noticeable marks stay toward the lower end. With scratches present, the value may lean closer to $1, or just slightly above, since serious collectors usually prefer cleaner examples. Still, that's 10 times its face value, which shows that even common-date wheat pennies hold collector interest. It is also important to note that while the 1950D is not a key date, certain errors from this period can bring significant premiums. Coins with doubled dies, repunched mint marks, or off-center strikes are worth checking for, and those can be much more valuable than the regular issue. For most 1950D pennies, however, condition and color remain the main drivers of value. The 1950D wheat penny tells a story from post-war America, when Lincoln cents were an everyday part of people's lives. Even with some scratches, a coin in extra fine condition represents a nice collectible, something that links us to the history of mid-20th century coinage. Whether you keep it in an album or use it as a teaching piece, it's more than $140,000. It's a small reminder of American history, and that is why collectors continue to seek out even the more common wheat pennies. Next up, the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, without a mint mark, is one of the most common and widely collected pennies from the World War II era. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, it came after the famous 1943 steel cent, which was made from zinc-coated steel due to copper shortages during the war. By 1944, the mint returned to the traditional bronze composition, and because so many were produced, the 1944 penny without a mint mark is still easily found today in circulation and collections. Even though it is common, collectors love it because it represents a turning point in U.S. coinage history and ties directly to the events of World War II. When we say a 1944 Lincoln penny is in good condition, we are describing a coin that has clearly been circulated and shows significant wear. In good grade, Lincoln's portrait on the front is still visible but worn down. Fine details such as his hair and coat lines are flat, and the word Liberty and the date remain legible, although possibly faded. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are outlined, but much of the finer grain detail is gone. In addition, if your coin has a few scratches, that can slightly lower its appeal to collectors since scratches are considered damage rather than normal wear. Even with these flaws, the coin remains collectible, but condition always plays the most important role in value. As for today's market value, a 1944 penny without a mint mark in good condition is not rare, and usually trades for just $110. Usually often $128,000. These coins are so common that dealers and collectors typically buy them in bulk rather than individually. If you check sold listings online or coin shop prices, you'll often see rolls of 50 wheat pennies, including many 1944 pieces, selling for a few dollars. That gives you an idea of just how available they are. Still, even though the coin's financial value is low, it holds strong sentimental and historical importance for collectors who enjoy filling in the popular Lincoln Wheat Cent albums. It is important to know that higher grades of the 1944 no mint mark penny can be worth much more. In extremely fine condition or uncirculated mint state, these coins can reach values of several dollars, and brilliant red mint state examples certified by grading services have sold for much higher at auctions. But again, in the good condition with scratches that you've described, the coin's value stays on the modest side, usually under a quarter. If you find a 1944 Lincoln penny, the best thing to do is save it as part of your collection. Even if it doesn't bring big money, it is a piece of history from over 80 years ago, a time when the world was changing and the United States was moving out of wartime coin production. Every wheat penny tells a story, and coins like the 1944 Philadelphia issue remind us of the resilience of that era. For collectors, the value is not just measured in dollars, but also in the connection to America's past. Next up, the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is a coin that many people still come across in old collections, inherited coin jars, or even mixed in with modern change. The absence of a mint mark means it was struck at the main U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, which at that time produced the largest share of Lincoln cents. In 1940 alone, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 500 million wheat pennies, making this one of the more common issues of the series. Because of such a high mintage, many examples have survived, but the condition of each coin plays a huge role in determining its value. A coin in good condition, especially with scratches, will naturally be worth less than higher-grade specimens, but it still carries collectible interest. When collectors describe a wheat penny as being in good condition, they usually mean it has heavy wear with major details worn down. On a 1940 penny in good grade, Lincoln's portrait will be heavily flattened, with his cheek, jaw, and hair blending into one another. The lettering and date are still readable, but they may appear weak. On the reverse side, the wheat stalks are visible only in outline, with most of the inner lines completely worn smooth. Despite this, good-condition coins are still identifiable and remain a part of the series that many collectors like to own, especially beginners or those trying to build a complete date set without spending large amounts of money. Now, when it comes to market value, a 1940 Philadelphia wheat penny in good condition, particularly with scratches or damage, is usually considered a high-value piece. In today's market, such coins often sell for around $180,000. This is not surprising considering the huge number of these coins that still exist. Collectors usually pay more for coins in fine, very fine, or higher grades, where details are clearer and the coin is better preserved. A coin in good condition is often seen as more of a historical keepsake than an investment. However, it is important to remember that some special varieties can exist for this date. For example, certain double die errors or repunched mint marks from other mints in the same year can command much higher values, even in worn condition. For the Philadelphia no mint mark coin, these varieties are rarer, but collectors still examine their coins carefully to check for anything unusual. Even a coin with scratches can be valuable if it happens to be a rare error variety, so it always pays to take a closer look. The 1940 wheat penny is a fascinating piece of American history. It came out just before the United States entered World War II, during a time when every cent really mattered in daily life. Although a worn and scratched example might only bring a few cents in value, it still connects us to that era and reminds us of how long-lasting these little copper coins are. For many collectors, even a common coin like the 1940 no mint mark wheat penny is worth holding on to, not because it will make you rich, but because it is a tangible piece of the past and an important part of any wheat penny collection. Next up, the 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most talked about coins in American numismatics, and for good reason. When people hear 1955 penny, they often think immediately of the famous doubled die error, one of the most dramatic and valuable varieties in the entire wheat cent series. But not every 1955 penny is a double die, and most of them are actually normal strikes. Still, it's an important date that many collectors are familiar with, and even common pieces have a story to tell. The version we are looking at today is a Philadelphia issue, which means it has no mint mark beneath the date. In 1955, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 330 million of these pennies, so they are not rare in the traditional sense. That large mintage means the majority of circulated examples are very common, and their value is modest unless they are in exceptional condition or happen to be one of the famous doubled die varieties. When a coin is described as being in damaged condition with scratches, that lowers its appeal to collectors significantly. Scratches, corrosion, bends, or heavy cleaning are all considered problems that reduce value. Even if the coin is old, damage means it cannot be graded in the normal circulated scale like good, fine, or very fine. Instead, it will often be described simply as damaged or details only, which means that the price someone would pay is much lower than for an undamaged example of the same date. Collectors almost always prefer problem-free coins, even if they are worn, because originality is a key part of desirability. For a regular 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny, without the doubled die error, in average circulated condition, the value is usually thousands dollar to maybe $1 or $2 if the coin has no problems. In fine to extremely fine grades, they might bring a little more, but because of the large mintage, they are widely available. In uncirculated red condition, certified by a grading service, values can go into the double or even low triple digits. However, once a coin has scratches or damage, the value drops back down toward face value. A damaged 1955 penny with no mint mark is typically worth only its copper content, or maybe a very small premium to someone who just wants a filler for a collection. The exception, of course, is the 1955 doubled die. That famous variety shows dramatic doubling in the date and lettering, especially on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Even a damaged or scratched doubled die example can still be worth hundreds of dollars, and higher-grade examples have sold for $200,000. So if you do have a 1955 penny, even one with scratches, it is worth double-checking carefully under good lighting to make sure it is not the double die variety. That could change the value dramatically. In the end, a regular 1955 Philadelphia wheat penny that is damaged and scratched will not hold much monetary value today. But it still tells a story, carrying history from the mid-1950s, a time when the wheat cent was still an everyday part of American pocket change. Even though collectors may not pay much for it, it can still serve as a reminder of the era and the importance of always checking your coins closely, because you never know when one small detail could turn a common penny into a treasure.